Storm of Steel, a World War I epic by Ernst Junger.
Ernst Junger was a German-born man who decided to go and fight for the German army during World War I. He started out at the bottom of the totem pole, and over the course of the war, many of his commanding officers and higher-ranked officials lost their lives. Battles were fought in trenches almost right away, and the trench warfare was some of the most grueling and non-successful forms of combat in history. His first-hand account, Storm of Steel, sold millions of copies worldwide and is considered by many to be one of the best first-hand accounts of the First World War. His novel contained a lot of romanticism, often being slightly extra when describing scenes of wartime brutality and putting great detail into how he describes the environment. This book was a favorite of Hitler's, but it also was a bestseller in Britain, among other places. So how can a German man write a wartime book that is both appealing to his side and the enemy side as well? The answer lays in the text, and how he details the British and French soldiers while also supporting his German homeland. People in the long 19th century loved romantic-style novels, ones with incredible descriptive words and vivid scenes of violence. Junger suffered greatly from this war. He was wounded several times, and releasing so many editions of the same story can imply that he never moved on from what he saw and experienced. He puts great detail into description because, one, it was the norm for the time. Most novels written at the time were of the romantic style. He also put so much description because he would not move on from some of the things he saw or did. For example, he describes how he would never bring his gas mask with him into battle or on recon missions because it was hard to breathe in it and the eye holes fogged up very frequently. He started carrying around his mask after his battalion, the 9th, got hit with a very bad gas attack. He ran through the chlorine gas without his mask, and he noticed the damage that the chlorine gas did. I looked up at all the little animals lying in the pit of the trench, killed by the chlorine, and thought, the barrage is bound to start up again any moment, and if you continue taking your time, you'll be caught in the open, like a mouse in a trap. He also described the massive artillery strikes put on by the French and the British. Leading up to the Battle of the Somme, many men were wondering if it was be the last spring they would ever see. This is a huge twist to the thoughts and ideas about how long war would last, because at the beginning of the war, consensus was that men would be home before Christmas. The Somme was particularly brutal in the sense of how Junger uses his words to put you in the moment. This might contribute to the massive popularity of the book, because not only does he embody German willpower, he also illustrates the British and French as equals while referring to military power and the will of the men. At noon the next day, the ball was opened in even livelier fashion. We opened fire, and for every toffee apple that came over, we returned a lance. After exchanging about 40 bombs, the enemy marked us down and put a name on us. Soon they fell to the left and right of us, but we kept on firing until one came straight for us. For fighting the British in some of the most intense battles in world history, Junger describes the feelings that the German soldiers had towards the British army, saying, the sergeant had both of his legs torn off by a bomb. Nevertheless, he clenched his short pipe between his teeth with stoical calm until he died. Here, as always, whenever we encountered the English, we encountered brave men. For as hardened the British men were, Junger portrayed the Germans to be men amongst men. Towards the end of the book, Junger is talking about his last operation, and how him and 2 other officers were surrounded by English troops, and there was a moment where he could follow through with all of his powerful speeches to the men about fighting to the last man and fighting for the German homeland. So while the English were marching away the prisoners, he pulled out his revolver and shot the English man square in the back, causing the British soldiers to start opening fire as he ran away through the trench system back to his battalion. Being shot multiple times, he was sent to the infirmary. He shares his displeasure through the book when he is injured and cannot fight, which is another reason why the book was wildly popular. Junger had a killer drive and a sheer determination of a war hero, making him rather famous back in his native Germany. Junger meets some of the most famous political figures in history. Early on in the war, Junger gets injured and is sent back to Germany to recover. While back in Germany, he gets to meet the Kaiser. Junger has nothing but good things to say about him, even though most of the world despised him because he was the main leader for the Central Powers. As stated before, this book was a favorite of Hitler's, because not only did it illustrate the sheer willpower the Germans want to be known for, Hitler also fought in World War I, making it very relatable to him and other World War I veterans as well. Overall, while the book has many traces of romanticism and is extremely vivid, the book is appealing to both sides of this conflict. The Germans enjoyed it because it focused on a German war hero with an unstoppable will to survive, and the English enjoyed it because it portrayed them as tough individuals, ones that did not just fall over and give up, but fought until the very last man, just like their counterparts across the no man's land. These combinations made Storm of Steel one of the most compelling accounts of war in human history.